The trick in Washington is not to have everybody say everything. So I will take a conscious effort to try and bring forward the points I'd like to bring forward without replaying all the important points that have been made here today. First, a word about myself. My grandmother on my father's side died of Alzheimer's. My father died of Alzheimer's. 6 of his siblings died of Alzheimer's. There were 12 in my father's family. I have 70 first cousins. Regrettably, a couple of them have already died of Alzheimer's. And that young man there is not going to die of Alzheimer's. We're not going to let that happen to their generation. Now, maybe it can still not happen for our generation, but the battle lines have been drawn. Look, I come here today to be clear. I defend the FDA's decision. Let's be unambiguous. The accelerated approval statute was designed for this very set of circumstances. A close question about a surrogate endpoint moving consistent with the improvement in health, and FDA coming to the conclusion that it was reasonably likely to predict clinical benefit, and they approved the drug. And that has happened in the last 10 years 75 times. And then Medicare has covered to label 75 times. Not once, not twice, never have they not covered to label after FDA has approved the drug. And these were cancer drugs, HIV drugs, and multiple sclerosis drugs. Now, it's unlawful for Medicare to talk about cost, but it's not unlawful for us to talk about cost. In that set of drugs I just referred to, the most expensive drug was $2.7 million a year. That was a cancer drug providing important benefit. The cheapest drug was $339, and it was a vaccine. The average of these drugs is $313,000 of all 75. And I just want to be clear. $28,000, as Phil already said, is a huge amount of money. But it is far and away not the most expensive drug that Medicare has approved to label. So what's going on? We'll come back to that. I want to clear the air on a couple other things. Drug prices, in my opinion, are too high. I don't want anybody to think I'm a homer. I want you folks to be able to negotiate over there at HHS with all the pharma companies, the industrial complex in the military are making money negotiating with the federal government for aircraft carriers and airplanes and submarines. So just so you know, I'm not against negotiating drug prices, but not at the expense of giving me and my family and all of you a therapy. And that, I think, is what's going on here. So we'll come back to that in a second. The other thing is, my grandmother, who I already told you died of Alzheimer's, she was a wonderful woman. Ran a farm, had 12 kids, and she told all of us grandkids, I will come back and haunt you if you ever become a Republican. I will haunt you. And that was a woman who could find some haunting if she was looking for. I am a lifelong Democrat. The party of choice. A woman's right to choose. Let's hear it for the Democrats. Woman's right to choose. Affordable Care Act. Federally qualified health centers. And a long list of other things to give the poor, the impoverished, the rural, and the underprivileged access to health care. But back to choice. Now, for the first time in the history of Medicare, they're going to deny us choice for a approved Medicare drug. I just showed you it wasn't price. As expensive as $28,000 is. And by the way, it wasn't safety either. That same long list I talked about, 25% nearly of those drugs I just mentioned had a black box warning. And for those of you that don't know, and I doubt there's many of you that don't, that means it's a really tricky drug. Could kill you. Aduhelm does not have a black box warning. Aduhelm does not have a REMS, which is an even more restrictive FDA requirement. But this drug, which doesn't suffer from that, is being tainted by Medicare, is being excessively unsafe. The FDA ruled. You know, who's in charge? The scientists or the guys without a single neurologist on the staff? I mean, would you go to a car mechanic for your neurology? They're wonderful civil servants, but I don't want us to be confused about who has the expertise in these matters, and it's not Medicare. So, essentially, they have always approved it. So what is the problem? Two things. First, for reasons that are beyond our control, the Congress of the United States will not give HHS the ability to negotiate drug prices. Senator Manchin, Senator Sinema, just be aware, nobody in your states can get this drug right now. Nobody is prescribing this drug. Two of the largest hospital systems in Arizona are unable to get this drug because they're worried they won't get coverage from Medicare. So you have a lot of folks who can't get the drug even if they want to pay for it because of this chilling decision by Medicare. Give them the authority to negotiate prices, but don't ration care. And that's what this decision is, in my opinion. That Medicare, unfortunately, is trying to do through this ill-designed NCD a very profound effort to restrict the number of people that can be on it, when hundreds of thousands of people should be on it, to just thousands of people, because they're trying to make sure the cost of the system is not too high. I regret that accusation. I believe the facts support it. Just three more things. You know, I'm old school, obviously, but if you're going to, in this day and age, when we have 40 years record inflation, don't raise my Medicare premium 14% and say the reason for that increase is the very drug you're not going to cover. I hope everybody here understands Medicare is collecting $7 billion in 22. That's with a B. And in this town, that's still a lot of money. $7 billion to collect premium that they're not going to use to pay for drug. Now, where is the justice in that? They should either give it back or let us get the drug. Phil, you should get the drug with the money they collected. I don't believe President Biden knows this is going on. He's got a few things on his mind. He's got a war, he's got COVID, he's got inflation, but we need to keep telling the folks over there at the White House and the folks over there at the Senate and the House that this is a problem that isn't going to go away in April, or it's not going to go away forever if they don't give coverage to label, because we have a right to choose. And last but not least, I do want to make a little news today. First, CMS, I don't want to be all negative. CMS did two really important things. And Pam, you mentioned the first one. We have to do better in the diversity in our clinical trials. Every American has a right to access to clinical trials, and every American should be in those trials if they choose to be, and those trials should reflect the population being treated. That is just clear, good judgment. I just want people to know, and Pam, you'll be pleased to know this, my organization is running a couple of the most integrated clinical trials in Alzheimer's today. We're up to 20%, a little over 20%, African American and Latinos in our biomarker study, and we're building a whole network of folks to increase folks in clinical trials. We put out an ad for people to help us recruit folks to clinical trials and got 500 applications. I don't want people to tell me the African American community, Latino community don't want to be in clinical trials. They are enthusiastic about the opportunity to be in clinical trials. You just got to go to where they are, right? The Medicare NCD is only going to be the Harvards and Yales and USCs of the world. And guess what? They don't treat the African American Latino community. You're not going to get what you asked for in that NCD. So CMS, you were right to call it out, and you implemented it exactly wrong. So let's get back to coverage to label. That will give people of color access to this drug. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank all of you for everything you do every day.